Hello and welcome back to another episode of Media and More with the Mediocre Modeler and Son. We are on episode 3 of The Acolyte. So, how you doing today, Andre?
I'm good.
You ready to dive into this episode?
Yes.
So, just before we get started, just kind of some preliminary thoughts of it. Is it going the direction you want it to go, or is this like a shot in the dark? Is this just come out of the left field, or where are we?
If I'm looking at it from a story perspective, I think that it has good flow despite a lot of the controversy behind the episode details. But overall, if I'm looking at the pacing from episodes 1 to 3, I'd say that it's coming along pretty well.
Okay. Well, so for me, after seeing this episode, I was like after episode 1 and 2, I was kind of meh. And then after this episode, I'm just like, okay, had they aired this one first, I would be more invested in the story, and then episode 1 and 2 would have meant more to me.
Right.
Now, I understand why they did it. And in my opinion, the reason they did it was we need to get the Jedi and lightsabers out front and draw the people in, get your fan base interested with the light show, and then they can go from there. So it didn't work for me, but being a hardcore Star Wars fan, I'm here for the ride. So
it is getting kind of tiresome for them to keep trying to appeal to the new fan base. I think when it comes to certain franchises, we can say that if you appeal to the core franchise, I think just from enough talk that, it should spread to the people who would want to see the content. So I do agree with you in that realm. Like, they could have, since we're going in the canon direction of the Star Wars story, they have a direction that they want to push, and it seems like they're trying to establish some grounds on the front end of everything, and that's pretty cool. But I still think that just cherry picking certain details may not be the best approach for the episodes that we'll see. The episodes leading up to what we'll see in this kind of give some details as to other things that I've pondered upon in other series, and so trying to piece those together based on their canon is kind of been like a fun little puzzle piece to me.
okay. Well, I guess we can just kind of get into it, and we'll figure some things out along the way.
Yeah.
So the story opens up. You see Osha sitting underneath a tree, right? And she's just sitting there, whatever, contemplating whatever. And then you see this butterfly creature come by her, and she uses the Force to grab it. So we know she can use the Force, even though we've not seen her do that up until now. So that's our first indication that she has the ability. And then May shows up and is like, well, how did you find me here? And she's like, well, whenever I don't know where you are, I come here and you're here. So there's a little bit of a controversy between the two. They're really setting up very well. I want to say very early. I guess you can still early in their relationship. I don't want to say you got the good twin and the bad twin, but that's kind of the direction they're going with it. I guess I'm indifferent at this point. It's just like it seemed like a trope at this point. It's just like, okay, we've seen that before, especially since Osha grabs the creature and then you can see she's just like, oh no, that's wrong. I don't want to do that. But May sees it and she grabs it and she's just holding it, and you get the impression she's actually hurting it. And she's like, let it go. I'm like, again, good twin, bad twin.
Would you say that they're identical or fraternal?
Fraternal.
And I think in them being fraternal, that may be able to help create that division between them. So I do like that in terms of it's good in terms of how they both have different choices. I mean, one is tied to home and the other, has
Wants to
bigger
wander,
plans. And
right?
that's pretty cool. But yeah, you're right. That is a trope, most definitely. And I we'll as we discuss it later, there are parts of that I don't like. But I think it does definitely help for this particular episode.
Okay. Well, so after they have their little discussion, they decide to head back, and then you get to see one of the other people that's there with her, one of the adults. And she's just like, what are you guys doing out here? You're not supposed to be outside the gate. And she's like, well, I'm old enough. I can go wherever, not I can go wherever I want, but I'm old enough to go on my own. And she tell it, it's dangerous out here. We need to go. So as they're heading back to their safe haven village or whatever you want to call it, you see the Jedi skulking about, and that was my first indication. I'm going, that is just so creepy. I mean, it's kind of hard to hold up the ideals of the Jedi when you're skulking around in the woods trying to snatch children. I'm like, what are you doing? I did not care for that at all. And this was, for me, further indication that they're trying to go down this path, that the Jedi are the bad guys in this story.
I slightly disagree with that. I would say that they were trying to give the Jedi this presence of basic like a trespassers on this planet, and we still don't have a whole lot of origin behind where they're from or how they got there. And in the next scene, they talk about how that they've kind of they've seen Jedi movement. So like as you continue on with the evaluation, I'll jump
Well,
back
no,
in.
just go on ahead and.
Okay, so I find it a bit odd how they knew the Jedi were on the planet, and yet the way that they were tracking them wasn't that good. Apparently, one would think, and it kind of makes me wonder if how long they'd been on the planet. Like, it would it be as long as the girls have been infants, or has it been much longer than that? We haven't gotten that far into it to know exactly, the length of time and the location at that. That's kind of odd too, because it's built into this kind of like a mountainside,
Right.
a very obvious space.
It looks like a dam. It actually looks like
Yeah.
a dam at the top of a mountain,
Right.
which is fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, well, okay. So once we get back to the village, we discover that they are basically, they're a coven, okay, and the coven are they're basically witches, the witches of Dathomir,
Yeah.
and it when the Dathomirian witches were first introduced. I don't know if you were watching the Clone Wars. This goes back to Ventress. She was like one of the Night Sisters, and this kind of goes down that road. So what I liked about the story then, and what I liked about this story now, and also what we find out about the witches from Ahsoka, is that different ways that people are connecting with the Force. I mean, they up until now, you really weren't sure if it was the same Force that they were connecting with. This kind of indicates that it is just, there's like one Force, but just kind of the way you connect with it is a little bit different, because one of the mothers, the lead mother, was saying the reason they're on that planet is they were running and hiding from the Jedi because the Jedi consider their use of the Force as dark.
I don't like that explanation. Not yours, but their perception of that. I do like the fact that they are neutral and I've never really thought about that for the Force spectrum until the show. Like there would be a race of people or just Force sensitive individuals who can kind of dance, not necessarily in the middle of good and bad, but it makes them question the morals on why and how they use it. That's a really interesting angle for why they escaped.
Right.
But I can't, and did watch some videos on behalf of the Witches of Dathomir. I can't recall where they escaped from. I don't know if that's the planet they escaped to.
Where they are now?
Yeah.
Yes. So the way they kind of make it sound is they found an uninhabited planet, and that's where they've been. That's the way I understood it. They found a planet that's out of the way where they could go and be alone and thrive and survive. But
if I remember correctly from the lore I was watching, the Witches of Dathomir from Ahsoka are a different coven who were banished for specific reasons. That was the only connection I had to the witches in this particular episode. I wasn't aware of the connection, but that is pretty cool that we were able to bounce that far back into the storyline to see what's going on before.
So you haven't seen those stories?
No, not based on the not.
That means we're gonna have to watch them now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give you a little bit perspective, I'm kind of interested to see how you come out of that. So I'll come up with a list and we'll figure that out. But the one thing that I found interesting is, there's this certain level of fear that the witches, the coven is afraid that they're going to take the children. But the reason we found out later is because when the Jedi do show up, they said, hey, that's jumping too far forward. Okay. They find out, the Jedi already know that there are children there. Okay. And they know I don't know how they know that they may have some Force ability, but they have to already know that to some degree. Yeah. But the way the Jedi, they kind of stroll in town going, we heard rumors that you're training children. Just like,
yeah, that's really odd. How?
Yeah, I mean, what business is it of theirs? I mean, because they do say what Carrie Ann Moss says. We have the right to test the children. I'm like, do you though? Really? But they make it sound, well, we have the right to test them, but if you don't want us to send them to be Jedi, well, you don't have to. Well, you kind of make it sound like I do.
Yeah. But
on the flip side of that, so you have the main mother, and then you have the Zabrak, the one with the little horns, the more aggressive mother. What did she say? She had made the comment, something about the Jedi are a race of warrior monks that want to warrior zealots or something like that. Something along that line. But I'm just like, but aren't you kind of the same thing?
Yeah, like a different sect. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're, that's kind of the pot calling the kettle black in this situation. Just like you're kind of doing the same thing. You're teaching them your ideals and your ways of using the Force, and you don't want them to connect with anybody else. So, but does that give them the right to come in and take them away? No, it does not. But,
that does beg the question of do they have the right? Is it because they're within the inner rim, and so by default they have control over everything within that realm?
Well, one of the mothers does make the comment that what is it, whatever the planet is or is not a part of the Republic.
Yeah, quite a few planets say that. A lot of planets say that, because wasn't that a pretty common theme in The Mandalorian as well? I remember correctly.
Um, well, I mean, so that's when you get into
To
we're
some
100.
degree.
Yeah, I mean, I that gets kind of into that whole strength in numbers and protection, because you had factions out there that were bad, that would take advantage of people. Like you had like the Pike Syndicate and the Huts, and so the Republic is there to protect and police. So the Republic isn't completely bad, and the Jedi are supposed to help them in that process, because the Jedi are technically aren't doing anything. So other than, squat, like we talked about last time, kind of squashing the really really bad guys and just letting people go on about their business and do whatever, and just 100 years of, they're touting 100 years without war, 100 years of peace. So
Who is actually in control during this time? I know it takes place on Coruscant, but
yeah, the Galactic Republic.
okay.
So that's the overall governing body for the galaxy. I mean, everybody was happy. No one, well, as far as we know, except for people being afraid of the Jedi coming around and stealing their children.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's an odd angle to have that as I don't know where the rumors would have nobody's mentioned where the rumors have come from yet, but even if they did hear, yeah, you're right, it would be kind of odd to just kind of fly into a planet and then coax the kids
it's
by
it's
perhaps
a
that
bad
was
look.
maybe it's a
Bad look.
bias. I think that's what's going to come down to is the Jedi, maybe not the immediate members who are on that planet, but the superiors are biased to this coven and their way of life, and so they're going to try to shift, the kids in that direction, which as we'll continue on in.
Well, I think maybe the lore of the coven, any coven, is going to be subject to scrutiny. Uh, I guess that's kind of where the Jedi, I feel like, are going to be blinded, because of the fact that if you don't see it our way, then it's the wrong way. I mean, the fear being when they had to fight the Sith were, power hungry and ruthless and blah blah blah, and they don't want that to happen again. But I think it's an overreach to go out there and just squash everybody who doesn't, you know, wield the force in the way that they want to wield them. But I don't know. I don't know. That's hard. That's hard to see what the galaxy sees the Jedi as, because you do have so many different rumors, and you know how rumors spread, how accurate they are. Who knows? Who's to say?
Their defenses are kind of odd too. As far as weaponry goes, I thought it was kind of strange how they. Well, when we get to after the scene with where the two girls ask, for some ice cream or spice cream.
Spice cream. Yeah.
They didn't try. But yeah, after that, and they go on the little. I think they had a little mini argument, and
right,
two ladies braiding their hair.
Right, because they're being ascended. They're at the age that they need to ascend and start the training to be full-fledged witches. One thing we failed to mention at this point, there are no other kids. Well, and that's how we find out in this scene that the sisters are talking. May is just like, oh, I can't wait to be a witch, and I want to, be with my sisters, and da 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 da. Where Osha is just like, yeah, I don't want to do everything you want to do. I want my own life. I want my own things, and I don't want to do that, But then that's where it comes out. Well, we're the same. Well, no, we're not. It just feels that way because we're the only kids here, and then the people that are braiding their hair, just like they kind of like,
do that, yeah, right.
So,
it was a very odd interaction, and I saw it coming. I mean, that's kind of the twin trope that I was expecting, maybe in previous episodes, but I'm glad they kind of waited. But man, leading up to the ascension was, I mean, it just got a bit too obnoxious. I get what they were going for with trying to get them jostle back and forth with that.
I th-
It was just, for a moment there, I just, maybe it was a few seconds too long, a few
okay.
scenes.
I think the one that got me the most, that irritated me the most, when the mother was they were in training or whatever, and then she's like the power of one, and she's blocked me, and so she uses the force to push the one back, and then the power of two, and so you have the two witches holding each other's hands, and she tried to push the two back, and they couldn't, and then behind the mother. They're stop. Why are you pay attention doing that thing?
Yeah.
That's the thing that was really irritating me. And then that's when the mother turns on and just your enemies are not going to warn you before they attack, and she knocks them both down.
It would have been cooler to see him do maybe some force tricks back and forth, as rivalry, just to see that they're young and brilliant. I think that would have been a better angle. Maybe it could have started with the jostling at first, but then
that
that
would
a little more
force based. Sibling
they've
fighting.
already been doing it. Yeah. So that's
a good idea. They should have gone that way.
Right.
We really haven't seen OSHA really use the force other than that one time. I mean, and that was nothing. That was holding a butterfly. At least May held back. While OSHA was behind her. I need more from you, May. OSHA.
Yeah, and it does make you question, okay, why are there just the two little girls there? And that was kind of why I was wondering if they had been there for a short period of time, because if they're the only kids, then either they had to have recently, I'm not sure how how the world works, in that particular part of the story, but
so if I don't know, if you want to just do so, they seem what 12, 13 years old. I mean, if you just do just a standard year, they seem like 12, 13 years old. Which means they've been there for at least. If you give them, I'd say they've probably been on planet at least 20 years. So give them time to get on the planet, get settled, get everything going. Because once you get past your day-to-day living, then you can work on, we need to create some children.
Right. Right.
When they were,
because one of the mothers, she has a race of people. We don't know really where the main mother, where her people are from, or where the force sensitivity comes from. But I'm pretty sure, because the second mother, he's Darth Maul's people.
Yeah, Zabrak. Yep.
And so they're naturally force sensitive in there, or is it just a more common occurrence?
I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Yeah, I would too.
But yeah, there were several different races there. I mean, because I saw a Twi'lek, and then so I think as far as female different race witches in the Coven, I think they covered it pretty well. They did
okay. My concern is that the writers were, or perhaps the producer, mainly the producer, was just like, as soon as she heard witch, Coven, and she just ran with that. And while that is great, and I'm hoping that they're taking a bit of inspiration from Ahsoka. Hopefully I don't know.
I'm sure it's all tied together in some way. Yeah.
It just, as soon as they heard that, that's the direction they wanted to go with. And so that's why bits of this felt kind of cheesy.
Okay.
I mean, at first, I think they mentioned the two moms thing in episode 1. Maybe.
I don't remember.
It might have been episode 1. But anyway, that's when I kind of already figure out, okay, it's got to be not necessarily a race of women, but just like a group of women.
Right.
It's super obvious. And then when they established that it was a Coven in this episode, it just kind of helped double down on the whole, okay, I see where we're going with this.
Right.
And, but I mean, it doesn't change from the character development or anything like that. I just it helped me connect the Ahsoka show.
Oh, okay, got
To
it.
some degree, but there are some very obvious differences, as we'll see as we
Well,
continue.
I like. Okay, so when they're at the ceremony,
Mhm.
they the girls had their little argument about being a witch. And I don't. I'd rather do something else. Okay, that's fine. But they get there and they're doing the ceremony, and the mother asks May, just like, upon my death, do you swear to keep the secrets of the coven, blah, blah, blah. I do. And then she does her thing and she gets the little circle thing over her head, right? And so when they get, was it, no, that was May. That was May. So when she goes to ask Osha the same thing, I, I knew the Jedi were going to come in. And I think to me, that's where the delay was, because just like, do you, Osha, swear to da 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 da?
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
I am like, oh God.
yeah. I feel like the Jedi got in a bit too easily. They just kind of slid in.
Well,
It
no,
was mentioned that they just cut through the gate.
yeah,
Like there couldn't be. We can't have a civilized conversation. Look, we feel like there are kids here, and the Jedi just basically said, "Screw that."
yeah, we're coming in.
Come
Yeah, I'm
through.
just like,
Okay.
again,
They're very
uh,
diplomatic about it, so I just think that's
another
a bit.
situation where they're not.
It's a
They're
bit
making
odd.
the Jedi look like the bad guys. I'm like, yeah, we're coming
So
in whether you want us in here or not. I
yeah,
just.
and so when they came in during the ceremony, even though they were in a group, I was just questioning how would this fight work out? Like they don't, not that just because they don't have lightsabers, but we don't know the overall spread of who is force sensitive amongst all these people or not. Is it all of them?
Yeah, I would say, because that's why they keep going back to that, the power of one, the power of two, the power of
Oh
many.
God. Yeah. No, that is the worst chant ever. That is the
I
worst
remembered it.
chant I've ever heard.
So it's got to be working to some.
It
Okay.
was it. That's the thing that people don't like when people get upset about trying to make things political. It felt it just felt like kind of a lame, like a cheap self-help chant group. It was just really
Which is
bad.
anonymous.
Yeah. I just think they could have come up with something better. And that was what I was saying earlier about they heard Wish and then they thought Coven. And so they just went with this. So they went with like
Yeah.
the LARPing style witch chant. And nothing against LARPing. I'm just saying it was
Right,
just
right,
very
right.
low quality. I mean, they could have, I don't know. I don't know if I would have taken inspiration from the comics or the books for this, but if anything, I would have just taken the chant out and they could have just, maybe not made noises, but just something
Well, okay.
different. Whooshing
Speak.
sounds. I don't
Okay.
know.
Here, the thing about the noises, when they were doing the chant.
Oh, there were noises at the beginning, weren't
Yeah,
there?
yeah. There was that one, and the one that she did that, yeah, 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 that thing. I
Yeah.
was just
Oh,
like,
right. The laugh. She laughed.
oh, no, it wasn't a laugh. It was okay.
It's like a
Have you?
cackle.
There was an
She did
episode
that
of
twice.
um, Single Life. There was an episode of Single Life where the Kim Fields comes in and she's wearing like this like African garb, and they start doing the Monday, Monday. They start doing that thing, and the one guy goes,
Living.
Is it Living Single?
Yeah, the living single. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what that reminded me of, because it was so goofy in that one scene. When I heard it in this one, I was just like, really?
She did it twice.
Yeah, I don't know whose call that was, but it was a bad call. It was a bad call. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there have been any other scenes similar on a cinematic level, but they could have just done something different. something better.
But you know what? I think that's the problem. They were trying to do something different. It just didn't land.
Yeah, it didn't land because they were trying to appeal to. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's embarrassing to people who are into witchcraft. Just the way that
Yeah, I can see
I don't
that.
know.
I
It
can
just
see
seems
that.
something like a bunch of kids running around. Just kind
Yeah.
of a silly. But beyond the ritual, the when they all went in and did the symbol thing, I thought that was kind of cool. But the I don't know, maybe asking them to die for, I don't know, she said to die for me, but I, I don't know if that really should have meant die for your people instead.
When did she say
Based
that?
on when she was asking, like she asked the first sister before she did the,
Oh,
will you
I
die
didn't
for
think she
me? Or
said to die for me. I thought she said when I die.
yeah, okay,
When I die,
okay.
do you promise to keep the secrets of the coven? That kind of
And
thing.
and that's kind of what makes it so odd because they're a separate coven. So I don't know what that secrets could is very subjective. Obviously they're not. Well, hopefully we don't do like some kind of spring back to the Ahsoka, like, meaning like I hope we don't see a reference from this to as
I
a nod to Ahsoka later. I don't think that would be necessary. If
I
they just
think
leave it standalone, that's fine.
Yeah, I think the only nod that we have and need is the fact that these are witches. I think that's
Yeah,
there are different sects of witches, and I think that's all that really needs to be.
the ones from
They just need to
Ahsoka
leave it at that.
the ones from Ahsoka were very imposing. The way that they presented them was a lot better. And I'm not saying because we haven't seen this whole series yet, but I'm just saying from the episode 1 in Ahsoka, I mean, she goes into this little tomb entryway, and you see the weird big statues, like
Right,
all of that,
right,
and then up to the last, I think it's the last 2 or 3 episodes where they get stuck on that planet,
right.
and then we get to see these witches in another imposing angle. I just think that the way that they're presented in that production is better, and I'm not saying that it should be exactly the same, but
Right.
I just think that
But
if
I think that's the whole point of this is that instead of walking down the same
yeah,
path,
they're the evil ones in that one.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, because realistically, they're really not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
They're taking care of each other. They're eating the food. They're minding their own business. So, but they're also kind of hiding too.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the what for what and the why. What's going on?
well, okay, because they feel like they're being hunted and persecuted, or would be persecuted by the Jedi. So that's to me a
It just
valid
seems
reason for them to hide. And if it weren't for the fact of the children or the rumor of the children, they wouldn't be there at all.
it seems like the Jedi are a small problem, like a current problem in relation to something bigger that they're dealing with. I'm not really. I mean, I haven't seen the whole series yet, but it just
The
seems like
problem of
there's.
the witches,
Yeah,
or
the main reason why they came there wasn't just because of the Jedi. I thought it was because of something happening on whatever planet they came from, and that's the planet they escaped to, and then took over that.
I'm not entirely sure based on the direction we're trying to go with this if we're
Yeah,
ever going to get that
right.
answer. I mean,
Yeah, probably not.
based on the way this panned out, there's probably no reason to come back here to this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So let's get there. the so the Jedi finish saying, "Hey, just let us test them," because they coax them out. That I was as when they were like, "Well, we've heard there are children here. There are no children here," and Oshi is just like peeking out in there, and was it what's his name? The Wookiee was just like, "Hey, come on out,"
I know,
and
right?
Soul reaches down and talks to her.
Them kids do not listen.
No, not at all. I'm just like, yeah, they begin to whoop them that night. But to your room, yeah, okay. But so they take them down there to the Jedi the next day so they can be tested. They said,
Wait, you jumped ahead.
What did I
We didn't
miss?
talk about the fact that these neutral, force sensitive witches use their powers to take over Torben's mind,
Oh
which is
yes.
not a good person thing to do. I don't even think that's neutral personally. And I mean, I think there are interesting ways to prove your point, but that was a bit, I mean, I one could say, okay, yes, we did kind of come to this planet that you live on, and one could also say that, yeah, we did slice down the
Yeah,
gate
yeah,
to
we
your
broke into their
entry,
house.
but that doesn't make it okay.
I don't know. I think they were well within their rights at that point. I think at that point that's them showing the fact that
Excuse me.
we're not helpless here. Yeah, we have these
Yeah,
bows and arrows, but we have power too. So
that
if
was
you want
their
your
biggest
guy,
flex. Yeah,
so I think that was a fair
it
bit
was
of
the witchy part, I would say, because
right.
I don't recall seeing any other Jedi do that I know of. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a inability on the Sith
How,
side, maybe, but that was more of like a, I don't know, because I'm not sure if it was possession per se, because he would just kind of,
how's that any different than a Jedi mind trick?
yeah. Well, it's worse. That seemed like torture.
Yes, it
These,
did.
I mean,
Yes, it did.
Jedi, yeah. That's the only part that made me kind of look at their culture. I'll say a coven, yeah, a coven, and just kind of question. All right, so yeah, you guys are threatening, but like, where's the moral side of it? And then that's, I mean, and then the whole hiding. That's when it kind of comes into play where we find out that they're hiding the girls and that they were created, and
They were
so just
created. Yeah.
you just more, it starts raising more questions than answers. And so I mean, I am raising my eyebrow to the coven, just on that level, just by those three different
Right.
issues
Okay.
that came up.
But so the girls are sent to the room and they go to council, right? And so the Zabrak witch was just like, we can take him. We'll ambush him. We'll get him, and the lead mother
I
was just
don't
like,
think
no, no,
so.
no, no violence, no violence. And they decide, well, if it's a test, it's either a pass or fail. So just tell him to fail. Okay. The next day they send him down to take the test. May's like, I'm gonna lie my butt off.
Yeah.
Right? So you promise me you're, but I don't want to lie. I want to tell the truth. I'm just, again, the polar opposite twins.
I wanted the division. I thought that was kind
No,
of
it's
cool.
good. It's good. But again, I think this is still leading us to the team up near the end. But they get in there. May goes in for testing. She comes out, I lied. So Osha goes in and she's all timid and meek, and again Soul steals the scene with talking to her because she misidentifies the thing and they trick her. She goes, yeah, that's right, that was a mountain, but that wasn't a mountain. Oh. So then they go on ahead and continue to test. Although Torben did take her blood, which I'm just like, warn a person.
They never do in the movies or shows. They
I
never do.
Okay. I appreciate and I know there's a big controversy. They haven't mentioned the M word, and I'm okay with that. You don't know the M word, midichlorians.
Oh, okay.
So
They're not calling it that
no,
yet.
they just said we're testing your blood. Well, that's what they're testing for, but they just didn't mention them, and I'm going to give them points for not even. I mean, we kind of going down that road, but we're not. So I'm just like,
Mm.
okay, test the blood, we're fine. Um, so Osha is, obviously has the ability, and I want to become a Jedi, and so she goes back, and the May's mad at her, and just like she's like, I couldn't lie to them. Well, you lied to me. I'm just like, well, that's your point of view. I mean, and so the Zabrak mother takes May off and just, you need to go for a walk, and she grabs her and whisks her off. And so here's the part that I find interesting. The lead mother is talking to Osha and saying, look, you have to make your decisions on your own. But if you decide to become a Jedi, that means you're going to leave and we're never going to see you again. And she goes, yeah. All right. So it's like, okay, she gives her a hug and she goes off to pack her stuff. Right. So when she's in her room, that's when May comes and just like, well, this is where it got dark. I'm not going to let you become a Jedi. Well, how are you going to stop me? I'm going to kill you. Okay, this child has some psychotic tendencies.
Yeah, there's something they should have looked into a while back.
I'm just like,
I didn't get a good look at the drawing. I'll have to look at some images online.
It was
notepad.
One of them was the Jedi symbol. It was kind of.
Okay, so she drew what she saw. Okay,
basically.
Okay, and then so the sister burns it.
Right.
And then we get to burning rock. Or flammable rock.
Okay.
Fast.
I have an
spreading flammable rock.
But
so
okay, before you get she locks
Are
her
you sure you want to try to explain this away for them? Because I'm pretty sure no one's trying.
Well, wait, just give me a chance.
Okay.
Give me a chance. So the fire starting, the fire spreading. While Osha was in the camp with the Jedi, he was working on the Wookiee was working on the speeder bike. So that kind of gives you her affinity for mechanics. So when she's trapped in the room, she has some kind of a screwdriver. She opens some kind of panel or whatever to get out of there. But go back and look at it. While the door is flaming and on fire, the door itself kind of looks like Darth Vader's helmet. Because it's like kind of rounded. Just go back and check that out. I'm just like, I know that. Okay, I mean that's just kind of a side thing, but I can see somebody putting that in there. But anyway.
Flammable rock, though.
Okay, so they get to you hear. From upstairs as she's getting away, you hear so something happens to the witches. They're upstairs, they're all dead, and there's the little bridge, and one twin's on one side, one's on the other. What did you do? May falls, Osha goes to fall, Soul catches her, right? So that's what's happened. Now, flammable rock. It wasn't real. It was a feint. They're moving the coven, and they need to make sure that the Jedi believe that they're dead. So they faked this whole thing that which gives them no reason to come back here. So they set the self-destruct on it. They made everybody think they're dead. As soon as they're off the planet, they're going to take the coven and move it someplace else. So that's the only reason I think, because the mother said, if you go to become a Jedi, you will never see us again. Flammable rock.
I don't know. It's a reach.
It was an illusion.
It's a reach.
It's an, that's the only thing that fits.
Man, it was just rough. It was a rough watch.
Yeah, well, but it's an illusion.
But we also,
it's like fire under water.
Fire in space.
Fire in space. So, so that gets us to. Then you see Osha on a cot in the spaceship, and she wakes up, and she's like, "Well, where are we going?" Well, we're on our way to Coruscant. Everyone's dead. We need to go back. We need to go back. They're gone. They're all gone. Everyone's dead. But if you want to come to the Coruscant and become a Jedi, you can be my Padawan. And, they hug it out, and that's the end of the scene. One thing I did miss, that another part that was a little bit creepy, and this was a soul thing. When they interrupted the ceremony, OSHA had the little thing. May had the little circle on her head. OSHA hadn't taken the thing, and so she didn't. And Soul makes that comment of, well, she didn't have that thing on her head this morning, and just like, God, how closely were you watching these people? So I still don't see anything that they did that's happened on the Jedi side for them to make this so hush hush, because I think earlier in the episode, Vanestra Rowe was coming down on Soul for not telling her, why didn't you tell me that she had a sister? Like, well, I saw her die. Why does it matter? I saw everybody die. What does it matter? So I'm still having some problems with the upper Jedi just being. I don't like the way they're portraying that character, but overall, based on all the information we got from this episode, I still think, had this aired first, I would be have been more invested in episode 1 and 2 than putting this one third.
That is a good point. I really like that point. I didn't know you were going to jump into a theory for what you thought was going on with the show. So I will say, I do question if the Coven is occupying this space that was built by someone else, or if they built this structure on their own. There are just a few small things during that episode that made me question if they knew the type of facility that they were working with. Because, I mean, any place with a landing pad,
right,
and some steel doors, is
that can be built, I guess.
I'm not saying that they didn't. I've just questioned, with the flammable rock, I don't know. It's just a mixture of that. And then that also jumps into the bigger theory that I had, that although the 4 Jedi that were available on that planet had their own reservations on handling the situation peacefully, I think that the upper council decided that it was better to get rid of the Coven because, that they have their own feelings. And so I'm thinking that somebody probably hyper jumped into that space, and then they did basically an orbital drop outside of it. And so that would put Soul in the position to rush in to try to, maybe save the girl. Like, all right, we're still going to do it anyway. So, I mean, I do think that there might be a little piece of that going on. Like, there's somebody in the higher up, because just the behavior from episodes 1 to 3 does kind of make me question. Like, we haven't seen any of the higher ups except the green face, the green lady with the bad makeup.
Yeah, Vanestra with the bad makeup.
They could have done so much better. They didn't. They didn't try with her makeup. Like, every other person looks like an alien except for her. She just looks like a person
with green paint on
from in a Star Wars universe who wants to be an alien. So bad. So
that's
she's
bad.
The producer's wife. So I can't be mean. But anyway. But yeah, that's just my theory, that there's something going on higher up. Like, it's getting a little too hush hush.
If that, okay, I did not see that coming as a theory either. So if that's the case, that'll catch me completely off guard. Because there's definitely something there, because that little bitty fire she set, there's no way would have destroyed everything.
No way.
So.
No way. They would have already been on a no fire notice and there were lanterns in that facility. True. So it's just very odd. Like, any one lantern in that place that is not an OSHA code is going to set that whole place on fire. That is just crazy. That was.
You know what? I think the other part of this was, like we were just saying, how the girls were kind of out of control. So maybe the plan was to fake the destruction of the coven, and maybe it was to fake the destruction of the coven, and May was supposed to go with the witches and Osha was supposed to stay, but the girls being the way they have been, she kind of broke ranks and kind of did her own things. Like, I don't want to, because she obviously doesn't want to do anything without her sister. So maybe the plan was to fake their deaths, but she's just like, well, I'm not doing this without my sister. I'm going to go get her. And she's going to come with me because we're sisters. And it just didn't go down that way.
That one duct that she escaped from in the room was very conveniently located. Like, what is the purpose for this thing?
Was it a laundry chute?
It just needs to get air to this one room.
But it was locked, though. I mean, she had to break that.
That's true. That's
okay.
True.
And then she had to spark the wires.
I feel like that was a nod to the Wookiee.
It was. It was.
Okay. Like, that's the first time I saw that. So, but still, I mean, I don't know if she Mary Sued her way through that situation, because she hasn't shown any prowess towards any type of electronics.
That's true.
Well, at least any of the flashbacks that we've seen. So we don't know for sure if she just is just good with, I don't know. It just
maybe this was just the beginning of it, because they lived a very
yeah, go ahead.
They were living a very sparse life. I mean, you really didn't see a whole lot of electronics around them.
Yeah.
When they were on that thing. And so she was wowed by the idea of the universe. And I think that's the other thing that piqued her interest, was when Soul told her, well, you can become a Jedi and there are other children there, thousands of them. And she's just like,
either
thousands of children? Well, let's go.
The 3 Jedi said that they were for the council, and Soul tried to go in and save someone, because Torben is, I can't remember Carrie-Anne Moss's Jedi name, but he was her Padawan,
right?
I remember correctly. So he's just going to follow orders anyway. And I don't know who I'm not sure who the Wookiee was under for that. But
he was, well, I think he was just kind of, that was just their group. I mean, the
robes were odd looking on. Not because it was, I just don't think that color was good
that tan,
for the Wookiee's character. But oh man, there's this scene when they were, oh wait, never mind. I'm thinking about the next episode. I'm sorry. Never mind.
I was getting ready to do that
something
too.
else.
Oh no, we can't talk about that yet.
Yeah. But yeah, the robes they're just kind of interesting. It did look like a skirt on the Wookiee. So I just think, I mean, I guess pants would be kind of weird. Maybe just a vest.
So the thing that got me was I was looking at his hair. It's just like, it's like kind of slicked down on the top of his head, but he has like a little tuft here. But I'm just like, does that mean he's balding, or what is that, like a skullet? I don't know. Man.
There was this trope that I'm so tired of that took place earlier in the episode where. Dang, I'm thinking of episode 4 again. Man.
Okay.
Sorry. Well, okay. Yeah.
I guess this would be a good place to stop then. So, okay. Well, since we so badly want to talk about episode 4, we're going to tackle that. Actually, I checked and episode 5's out. So we might have to check. Yeah.
I haven't seen all of 4 yet. I just barely started. So
okay, well, I'll give you a couple of days and we'll tackle that one. But if you have any comments on the episode 3, please leave them down in the comments and we'll respond in kind. But until next time, this has been the Mediocre Modeler and Son for Media and More on the Acolyte. Pew 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 pew.